Okay, so we are slowly transitioning over to INAV. In the past, OnPoint has sold NASA flight controller systems and Pixhawk flight controller systems, and those are still available, but we are moving to an open source flight controller system primarily. We have a racing Cobra drone that uses INAV. We're going to move our Hawk and our Longbow and our Arise over to INAV. So I wanted to do, I've already done a video on the component stack that we're using, but I haven't actually put one on a frame yet, so I wanted to do that. This is a Hawk frame. Our Longbow frame is just a little bit longer. And then our Arise drone also uses the Hawk frame. So that's what I will be using to put the component stack on. Something that I saw recently, so this drone is like a big arrowhead. So that should be the front and that should be the back. If your ESC has the power wire sticking out a different direction, I watched one of our Pixhawk build videos and the power wire was sticking out that way. So that might be why the individual had it done the way they have. But INAV is a little bit different, so I'm also going to try and point those out as well. So first off, we will open our speed controller. This is the electronic speed controller with some very, very long motor wires to make sure that they all get to where they need to go. Some things that I'm going to point out on the speed controller. First and foremost, right here is the pinout. So when you plug your wires in, you know that VBAT and ground are the power source. So the red wire would be furthest to this direction, and then ground, and then it looks like your motor wires are next, and then current and telemetry. The other thing I want to point out is there are little numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so those are your motor numbers or your motor ESC numbers. So motor number 1 is going to be these 3 wires right here. Motor number 2 will be these 3 wires over here. Motor number 3 and motor number 4. You'll want to know that when it comes to motor rotation later in the setup. So the easiest way to get this, I'll zoom back out, to get this onto there is you should have gotten a packet that says ESC parts. 6mm button head bolt, 4mm nylon standoff, 3mm nylon nut. I always try to include an extra piece in case something gets lost, dropped, whatever. Maybe it's stripped out, who knows, but there is one extra piece, so you will have some left over. So I've already got what I need over here in a pile, but I wanted to show you that's what it will look like. Okay, the easiest way to do this is to actually go ahead and thread them on a little bit. Doesn't have to be super tight. All I'm doing this for is to get placement. You'll notice that these are slots and not holes, and so for me to make sure I get it exactly where I want it, I'm actually going to, where'd it go? There it is. I'm actually going to add these now, just to make it a little bit easier. Okay. Now that they're there, you can take your 5.5 millimeter nut driver and just a couple turns. Again, you know, it doesn't have to be super duper, but you want it to be snug. You don't want any vibration. Is a bad thing for drones. So anytime you have vibrations making their way to an accelerometer, that is bad news. Okay, so now what we're ready to do is get it onto the frame. So I'm going to just stick that out there like that. He's going to go basically in the middle just like that. I'm going to flip it over and I will use my 2 millimeter, oh, I grabbed the wrong one. Let me pause this. Okay, yes, 2 millimeter nut driver, Allen, 2 millimeter Allen. And all I'm going to do is line up. Let's go ahead and get this. Sometimes you can get it to stick on there, makes it easier. And we're just gonna, I'm not gonna tighten it a lot. I'm just gonna get it started so that I can get over to one of the other sides and get it into place. So I'm gonna bring him like that. Same for this one. Like that. And like that. Okay, so this is what it will look like once you have it on a frame like that. Now you're going to want there should be some little baggies. Really, you don't need much out of here. What you do need this is extra. These capacitors, extra. These 4 standoffs you will want. Okay, all of these are extra. What you will need out of here is that one. Don't need any of this. You want the other, more standoffs, and then the 4 nuts there. The rest of that you don't need. Alright, so that's what you want. We'll look at our holes. We know red needs to be that way. We look at our pins. So we know this is going to go in here like that. Alright, so now I would go ahead and tackle motor routing of wires. You know, I would work on getting this that way, you know, with your arm. I'd work on getting that one that way, work on that way. You can do these parts now. What you're going to do when you're ready for this piece, I'm going to set this aside, is I'm going to, okay, so now I had to go grab a couple of more screws. So if ever you get your short screws, if you didn't get all the screws you're supposed to have gotten, please email us at info@onpoint.com so that we can get you what you need as quickly as possible. Sometimes our components stacks change and we have to adjust, and so sometimes we miss things. We are human and it is a small company, so I know it's an inconvenience, but please reach out to us if there is something you are missing. So for the flight controller, I'm going to do the same thing like I did the ESC. I'm going to put these in place ahead of time so that lining up these slots is easier. So I'm just going to go through, I'm going to use these standoffs that came in those little Ziploc baggies, and I'm going to use those to get ready to mount. Some flight controllers will have a VTX. That's what this is right here, a VTX. Some will not. We originally bundled it like if you were doing an FPV system or not. This right here would go to a camera. This is the VTX. I'm trying to get it to where we can have a VTX on every flight controller, because that makes on-screen displays available, and INAV is kind of geared towards FPV, so it would be handy. Alright, so same thing, I'm just going to get this lined up like that. Okay, so flight controller in place. Now I'm going to bring the body back over. Again, we're pretending that our motors our motor wires have been routed, and we're ready to add our top plate here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get this guy over again, get this out of the way like that. And so this wire right here is going to come up through here and plug into that one right there. So we'll just go like that. Remember, like I said, these are not there, like that. And so you're just going, I'm going to actually add a screw. Alright, so we will add a screw at the front and the back just to keep it from moving around while we do this. So like I said, this wire is going in that spot right there. Tweezers make it easier. Just take it like that. And you can use to just push it in like that. Alright, so now you can see you have the electronic speed controller in the middle. Then you have the cable coming up to the flight controller up here. Having the flight controller up on top just makes things a little bit easier, a little more accessible, that kind of thing. And then, like our other video, you're going to add the other items. This would be the distribution board, or yeah, for the GPS and the LEDs. So that one would go on here like this. Then you could use your red your red nuts to hey, where'd you go? There you are. Come on, there it is. Okay, so now you have your stack. You have this going out here. The last thing to do is going to be adding your GPS. So again, we look at our pins and we look at our connector to see where we need to be. And then I usually like to route it through the body if possible, just because whatever wires we can protect ahead of time, the better. So I'm just kind of routing it through like that, sticking it through here. And just a mental note, before you add this triangle piece, don't forget to put that in place, that GPS holder. I almost always forget, and then I wind up kicking myself because I have to pull everything back apart again so that I can put that GPS in place. And then lastly, you get your GPS puck. Little arrow that needs to point to the front. 5 volts and ground are up here at the top. So we know that we want our red wire to be at the top of our connector, like that. I'm going to just plug it in, and then I'm going to just arrow facing forward. I'm going to put it in there. It's a press to fit, so it kind of snaps in. It'll stay there, but you should have gotten some glue in your accessory bag, so you'll want to run a bead of glue on either side of this so that it does not fall out. And so this is actually what you're looking for. Obviously, I did not add the LEDs. This one does not have a receiver on it because I haven't actually built this for a drone yet. This is purely for display purposes. If the standoffs, the metal aluminum standoffs that come with it are not tall enough, I should have included an extra set of these, of the ESC parts. If I did not, please reach out to me and I'll get you some extra ones, because they are just a little bit taller than this, and having the VTX there potentially could mean that you might need a slightly taller set. So either way, I should have included an extra set of these. If I have not, please let me know. So that's what it should look like. What else have I missed? There's an arrow on the flight controller. It should face forward. Arrow on the GPS. It should face forward. This is the forward of the drone. Not all systems will have VTXs. Hopefully they will in the future. And I think that's all there is for right now. Again, this is applicable for INAV on Hawk, Longbow, and Arise. And I think that's it. Please comment with any questions or concerns.